gear up as we've had a packed last couple of weeks over the February time period. Lots of planets doing lots of different things. And we have our girl Mercury going into retrograde later this week. Sit tight as I go over all of the astrology that is happening, that has happened over the last few weeks, what to expect, how to support yourself through it, and then ground with a little bit of mindfulness at the end of the episode.
You're listening to The Holistic Ritual, a podcast for holistic health-minded humans seeking mind, body, spirit well-being. Hosted by Kamala Celeste, IIN holistic health coach, former personal trainer, and meditation guide. With over a decade of experience guiding transformation and whole person healing, you're invited into the practice of guided meditations, affirmation readings, and spiritual insights through a holistic wellness lens, blending ancient wisdom with modern science. This space supports you in releasing, renewing, and reconnecting with your inner wisdom, cultivating a sanctuary you can return to each week as your own holistic ritual. Without further ado, let's get into the episode.
Hello and welcome back to the Holistic Ritual. I am your host, Kamala Celeste, and this week is going to get a little crazy as we are currently in the shadow of Mercury retrograde. Mercury officially goes into retrograde February 26th through March 20th, and during that period we also will have another eclipse. So things could get interesting. Things could get intense, but we're not here to fearmonger, to give you any pop astrology. We're here to ground and to actually look at it from a very realistic perspective. So over the next few weeks, technology might feel a little glitchy. Conversations could feel off or abrasive, or there could be some misunderstandings happening. And then if you have any travel plans over the next coming weeks, I know spring break probably falls into that here in the States, but if you are going to do any traveling over the next few weeks, check your travel plans, check your itineraries, really just make sure that you are triple checking everything before moving forward during this time period. So, a little overview of what we have coming up later this week. Let's kind of rewind a little bit and talk about some of the astrology that's happened over the last few weeks since I have not been with you. I know we had a week off last week. I did release a paid ritual on my Substack, and then the week before we just had a guided meditation. So it's been a little bit of time since I last left you. February has been cosmically incredibly busy. As soon as Lunar New Year happened, there's so many things that just were boom, 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 one right after the other. Lunar New Year, of course, was on February 17th. It is the year of the horse officially. The solar eclipse was on February 17th as well, and that was in the sign of Aquarius. And then Venus was conjunct the North Node in Pisces. That also happened on February 17th. The 17th was a very busy day for us astrologically. And Venus conjunct the North Node is kind of like a sweet, softening, making everything a little bit just nicer and sweeter throughout this kind of like heavy fire air energy. So combined between the solar eclipse and Aquarius, and then we have the year of the fire horse, the Lunar New Year taking place. We have those two elements of air and fire. Air is going to ignite fire even more. So it could have felt very harsh and very kind of like the energy was hitting you over the head with it. But then we have Pisces, the Pisces energy from the Venus North Node conjunction that kind of just simmered everything down and made everything feel a bit more softer than it would have had it been on its own. February 20th, we had Saturn conjunct Neptune in Aries. Saturn is all about lessons, and then Neptune, we have kind of like this dreamy energy. And then in Aries, the fire sign, we already are very fire heavy with the Lunar New Year. So we have kind of all these different energies in place. lots of fire, a little air. Pisces is water. So all of these elements combined, it could feel like pressure, steam, scatteredness, kind of all over the place. Fire is also initiative. So it could feel like you're wanting to make all these moves and make all these plans and hit the ground running. But with the air and the water, it's kind of like, well, I also feel like I have so many thoughts and it's all over the place. And I just need a container to help bring all of these thoughts into a way that you can actually put them into aligned, grounded action. So we are in desperate need of some earth energy, I feel like. Mercury retrograde, again, as I said, February 26th, that is this coming Thursday in the States. And then it'll likely be Friday overseas. So February is really something. I feel like it's come and gone in the blink of an eye. And Mercury is now going to ask us to review what sparked as February opened us all up to this energy. On the 18th, the sun also entered Pisces. It is now officially Pisces season. So happy birthday to all of my Pisces. Pisces is a very dreamy, sweet, watery kind of energy in its most positive form. Before we get into our spiritual guidance, I just want to go over the lay of the land today. So we will have our oracle pool in just a second here. I'll set up our little ritual space for us. And then we will go into some deeper context of all of these happenings in the cosmos right now in terms of astrology. We'll talk about the fire horse here. We'll talk about the aftermath of the eclipse. And then we will go over what this energy could feel like and how to integrate it, mind, body, and spirit moving forward. After that, we are not going to do a guided meditation today. I'm going to save the guided meditations for the standalone guided meditation episodes. I feel like it just will help the flow of these kind of sit down chatting to you episodes flow a little bit smoother versus if you would like to specifically do a guided meditation, those will be in their separate forms for you to also consume as well. So I know in just the way that I'm consuming a podcast, I'm kind of like doing other things while I'm listening. So I'm either on the treadmill, I'm doing my makeup, I'm cleaning, I'm on a train, I'm commuting in the car. So not really an ideal place to do a guided meditation at the end. So at the end today, we will have a grounding, a body grounding, which is more on the mindfulness side that you can do anywhere, no matter if you're doing any of these other activities or on the go. And then we'll close out with sealing this ritual practice today. So yeah, that is the lay of the land. I am going to go ahead and light this candle for us to set our little space. And I actually made this candle. It was a hobby that I got into over COVID, and it's kind of like my go-to now for any little housewarming gifts or a birthday gift. I like to include it. I did these for stocking stuffers one year. And as you can see, I have just a little star anise and then a very burnt cinnamon stick. And then this is soy wax, coconut wax, perhaps. So we'll put that on the cinnamon stick is actually completely on fire. Hopefully that's a good sign. It means cinnamon is more abundant. So let the abundance flow. All right, so we have our candle lit. And then I'm going to clear my deck using the Talisman Oracle deck today. So we'll clear this. And just to set our scene for us, today I'm going to be asking the Oracle a collective question for us during this pre-retrograde shadow period. I feel like it's really important to ground and to move forward with this energy with just a little bit of divine guidance. So, question for today's Oracle: what perspective are we being invited to reconsider before this next chapter begins? And the next chapter being the start of the astrological new year for Aries season. So Pisces is our closer, it is the ending, and that's kind of the energy. And so it's very interesting that we're having a retrograde kind of to close out the astrological year. And it pretty much runs exactly up until the start of Aries season, which is crazy. So yes, what perspective are we being invited to reconsider before we go into Aries season? Interesting. So I had two cards pop out today. We have wisdom and we have willpower. Wisdom and willpower. So asking what we need to reconsider or what we need to contemplate or think about, ruminate on before we move forward. Mercury retrogrades are also a period of reviewing. So it's interesting that our wisdom and willpower are coming up. So in relation to wisdom, how can you utilize your own divine innate wisdom, your intuition, your gut instincts? How can we utilize all of that in order to accomplish everything we want to accomplish, in order to stick to our willpower of all of these things that we said we were going to do this year, using our wisdom to edit, reconsider, redefine, and to look at all of these goals that we set, to look at the future, how we want the rest of the year to play out, utilizing that wisdom and our willpower in order to move forward from a place that is aligned with ourselves and aligned with all of these new downloads and sensations and intuitions that are probably have been coming up over this period of time in February, especially with the eclipse that we just had. Lots of particular downloads could have been incoming from that. The new moon. New moons are always a time of reset, of intention setting, of putting out into the universe what we would like to see over the next lunar cycle. But let's read from our little guidebook what wisdom and willpower. Okay. Wisdom. The power of the mind has no limits. Wisdom is not only about having all the information and knowledge, but about applying what we know to our situation so it adds meaning and promotes the common good. This card reminds you that it's time to live life in such a way that builds the spirit. The octopus on this card is upside down and invites you to look for alternative perspectives to broaden your vision. Sometimes all it takes is to distance ourselves from the situation to see more clearly what's best for us and everyone we love. Your third eye is awakened and focused on the scene, so don't be afraid to look for a new viewpoint. Yeah, so it really is, like I said, utilizing your own intuition to rethink about and how to move forward so that it does align. And then we have willpower. It's time to channel your willpower through fierce dedication. You have set your objectives, and by applying discipline, commitment, and courage, you will achieve your goals. At times, your target may seem too far away, or people might try to convince you to adjust your expectations, but you alone know the power that you hold within. Stay confident in your abilities and focus on the next step in front of you. The dominant presence of this bull on the front of the card is helping you through the tests of your strength and resilience. The victory is within reach. So also inviting us to remember that we have all of this willpower. We need to be able to access it. How can we access our willpower? By utilizing our wisdom, by utilizing past experiences, by getting in touch with our guides, with our ancestors, to even think about everything that they had to overcome. So from that perspective, remembering that you do have the willpower for whatever it is you are trying to accomplish, whatever it is you are going after this year, whatever you put on your vision board. Tap into your innate wisdom, tap into your willpower, come up with a clear, grounded plan. This whole retrograde period, I feel like, is going to be about sitting with and making a clear plan of action on how you are going to move forward. And we'll talk about that a little bit deeper in just a second in terms of retrograde. Okay, this is a very, very fitting reading. So hopefully that resonated with you. Let me just clean this up. Hopefully you are thinking about wisdom and willpower in terms of reviewing, having discernment, slowing down during this time period to catch those signs, and then recalibrating before takeoff. And so let's take a look at what all of this actually means on a deeper level. In order to understand Mercury retrograde, I feel like so many people have this very woo-woo idea of Mercury retrograde. Let's take a look at Mercury retrograde from an astronomical standpoint, not an astrological standpoint, for just a second. So we're going to zoom out so that we can deliver this in a very grounded way. When we say that Mercury is in retrograde, we're talking about the actual planet of Mercury. It's not actually moving backwards in the sky. Mercury orbits the sun much faster than the Earth. So as it passes us in orbit, from the Earth's perspective, from our perspective, it appears to slow down, to pause, to look like it's going in reverse, and then once it passes us, it looks like it's moving forward again. Something that I like to easily demonstrate this with is when you are on a train traveling, it's going at a certain speed, and then another train comes right by you, but it's traveling at a much faster pace. For a moment, it looks like you could be going backwards, but you are both technically still moving forward. And that is exactly what's happening when Mercury is going by us faster. So, from an astronomical standpoint, that is technically what is happening in the sky. Now, why does astrology make such a big deal about Mercury retrograde? For the most part, I think it does get a bad rep because astrology in general, as I've said many times before, is not saying that planets cause events. Astrology is ancient pattern observations. So it's saying for thousands of years, humans have tracked the sky as a way to navigate, as a way to figure out where they are. And so when we started collecting this data, when the sky appears to do this, here's what tends to be happening down here on Earth. And so historically, Mercury retrograde periods, communication requires revision. Technology can act really haywire and go a little bit weird. Travel plans can shift or be delayed. Contracts need to be reviewed and reread. People can also appear from the past. You can hear from ex-friends, ex-lovers, ex-coworkers, and misunderstandings often reveal some type of underlying truth. And it is very much a period of review and refinement, and a period that is very internal. So this is about correlation through observation, not superstition, but pattern recognition. So that is how I like to think about Mercury retrograde, from a very grounded perspective, and not a Mercury retrograde is here, your life is going to be ruined perspective. I don't like to approach astrology like that. So let's take a look at the layer of Mercury retrograde in Pisces. So Mercury rules the mind. It rules language, data, coordination. Pisces rules intuition, emotion, imagination, fogginess, and spirituality. So this retrograde review could feel like emotional miscommunication, heightened sensitivity. You could be experiencing more brain fog, nostalgia. Also, a good time for spiritual downloads as well. Dreams could be incredibly crazy or intensifying right now. And then as Mercury draws in things from the past, old grief could also be resurfacing at the moment. And then there could feel like there's a need for being very meticulous about creativity. So creative revisions could be coming up a lot. But now that we know this and we kind of know what to expect over the next few weeks, it makes it so that we can move with the energy instead of going against the grain. This could also, in your body specifically, feel like your eyes could be a little heavier, you could be a little sleepier, also floating or falling sensations. So I don't know if you've ever felt like when you're laying in bed and you suddenly feel like you're falling and then you wake up. Those sensations could be a little bit more prevalent right now. Difficulty concentrating as Mercury rules kind of the mind and what it's doing. And then also emotional waves, emotional bouts, and then wanting a bit more solitude. I definitely started feeling this over the last couple of weeks, just feeling like I need more solitude and time to myself, which is crazy because I work from home, so I get so much solitude and time to myself and with Kylo. So this is just your body responding to this energy that is, it's priming itself for it to station retrograde. Now that we know all of this, hopefully your retrograde will feel like you have a bit more of a handle on things. You know what to expect versus it feeling like you are regressing during this period. It is only a temporary state, and really take note of what comes up during this period of time too, during this retrograde. And then moving on to just review a little bit of what we've talked about over the last few weeks, the year of the fire horse versus our retrograde here. So as we have talked about, fire horse energy is movement. It's taking initiative. It is action. How Mercury comes into play here is Mercury is going to ask us, you need to review this before you take the action. You need to make sure this is what you really want before you take the leap. And this is the perfect time to do that, because then after this retrograde period, we have Aries season, which kicks us off of the astrological new year. So this retrograde is actually a very cleansing thing, as we could be closing old chapters. We could be making one last round with our ex people before we step into this new year officially, as I feel like Aries season with the double fire, the fire horse, and then Aries just being a bit more of an impulsive fire sign energy, utilizing this period to get very grounded, to have these refinements, to review certain things is going to be so important before we step into that Aries energy. And then we have to talk about the recent eclipse that happened on the 17th as well. The solar eclipse in Aquarius was probably very revealing. Aquarius rules collective systems, future plans, technology, community. So you could have experienced a sudden realization, a shift in friendships, future plans that may have gotten rearranged or have been rethought about, or lots of new ideas emerging during the eclipse. Eclipse is very fated energy. I talked about this a lot during my paid ritual on my Substack for the Lunar New Year and the eclipse energy. Mercury Retrograde is going to ask us, is this shift aligned or is it reactionary? Let's get into some specific insights on how this will likely affect you over the Mercury retrograde season. Something that is going to be really important to take with you this season is overstimulation is not intuition. When you are overstimulated, you cannot connect with your intuition. Aquarius eclipse energy that just happened really shook up our nervous systems. And then the Pisces retrograde is kind of blurring this perception, as Pisces is a very dreamy type of energy. So you could really be thinking about right now, is this anxiety or is this my intuition? Is this my knowing? And so when we think about our intuition over the next couple of weeks, you really want to think about intuition and downloads. The energy will feel very grounded. You will feel it in a specific part of your body. It will feel like a grounded calmness. That is your intuition speaking. If it feels very heightened or very panicky, that is likely not your intuition. That is likely anxiety. Anxiety from the retrograde, anxiety from all of the planetary shifts that are happening right now, anxiety from the state of the world right now, anxiety from external factors, external people. So really, this is a period of time to use your discernment. Try not to be overstimulated. Try not to doom scroll. Try not to numb yourself out with a bunch of external things like TV, dating apps, endless swiping, anything that is going to take away from having that time daily to connect with your intuition. You really need to connect with yourself during this retrograde. We want to also anchor, if you are having a lot of anxiety during this time period, anchor with the body and figure out where it is coming from, where you are feeling it in your body. And the other thing this time period is asking us is to review before you reinvent the wheel. Review before you reinvent your whole life or your whole self. We have had 3 different resets here, 3 different New Year periods of time where before leading up to these, they are perfect for reviewing all of these goals that we are setting or that we have set. So January 1st, we had our Western New Year. Personally, for me, I usually like to make my vision board by January 1st so I know what I want to accomplish over this next coming year. And the next review point was February 17th, which was last week for the Lunar New Year. That is also another restart or recalibration period of time. And then the next one coming up is March 20th, which is Aries season in our astrological new year. Aries also coincides with springtime, where if we think about coming out of winter, everything is hibernating, it is nesting, it is reclusive, it is a very cozy and almost like slow and grounding type of internal energy. And also in nature, everything outside is dead or covered under snow or in very harsh, cold weather conditions. So the start of Aries is also springtime. It is the ultimate new year, in my opinion, because we also have springtime coming in, which is the rebirth of all of the vegetation, of all of our plants, of all of our trees. So it is like the world, the climate, nature is all waking up again at once, and it's ready to move forward. So retrograde is a perfect time for revisiting any goals coming up to prepare for the spring season, for Aries season, and then asking yourself, are your January intentions still aligned? And I know I've covered this a couple of times already, but this is your final checkpoint before the rest of the year gets going. Are your goals still aligned with where you want to be at the end of the year? And it's okay to change your mind. If you maybe put too many goals on there, refining and asking yourself, what's one really big goal? What's your misogi for the year? What's your really big ultimate goal that you want to accomplish? And then what are 3 smaller goals to get you through the rest of each of the quarters? 3 to 4 smaller goals. If you haven't made a vision board yet, now is the perfect time to be reviewing and refining all of those things. Even just writing them down on paper and listing them out is another very perfectly way to execute this type of refinement and this type of reflection on moving forward. And then remembering, if you do have to edit any of your goals, editing is not failure. Editing is utilizing your innate wisdom, your intelligence to align yourself. And then the last insight that I want to go over is spiritual reconnection is not escapism necessarily. So Pisces retrogrades can be incredibly avoidant, especially avoidant of responsibility, accountability. And this can also manifest as, like we talked about, doom scrolling, living in the fantasy realm, the fantasy world, over romanticizing people, places, jobs, partners, friends. But healthy Pisces energy is focusing on things that are going to keep you centered, like meditation, tapping into your creative muscle right now, doing more of your own artwork, praying more if that's your thing, if you are religious, resting more. Retrograde is also a great time period to rest, to catch up on rest, having a little bit more compassion, and then going back to old projects, especially creative projects, ones that you haven't finished necessarily, and reviewing those. Do they need any refinement? Do they need any changes? What does a piece need in order for it to feel completed or finished? So again, retrograde is a time of going inward. Go in towards yourself. Spend more time with yourself. but don't disappear. Just be very selective with where you are going, how you are spending your time, who you are spending your time with, and then revisiting all of the people in your life. Are those people people that you want to take with you the rest of this year? And then very quickly, I will put a graphic. Maybe I'll put a graphic here if you are watching the podcast episode. If you are not, I will put a link to the Substack post where I will post this episode as well, but it will have the visual there. So if you are just listening, you can click on that and go check out the visual for this to find where Pisces lives in your chart and what themes are going to be coming up under review during this retrograde. So, example, if you have Pisces in the fourth house is the house of family, emotional roots, your home, reviewing your home. You could be thinking about relocating. You could be thinking about your family dynamics right now. You could be thinking about different emotional roots and where you call home, where you consider to be home. That could be where you are now, or that could be somewhere where you are wanting to end up and call home. If you have Pisces in the seventh house, this is your partnerships and one-on-one agreements, one-on-one relationships. So reviewing those agreements and partnerships, are they aligned with where you want to go this year? And then if you have Pisces in the 11th house, that's community, long-term goals, friendships, reviewing those different things. Do you have the community in your life that you want? If not, what are the steps you can take in order to find that community of people, to find your people? And are you spending enough time with your people? Are you needing some time away from your community right now in order to spend more time with yourself? Maybe you've been spending too much time with other people and not enough time with yourself. So if I did not mention your specific house, you will look to where Pisces falls on this little wheel right here. And that slice of pie is the theme of what could be needing review during this retrograde period. So once you have that, I invite you to just ponder this question, think about this question. What are you reconsidering right now? What needs review over this Mercury retrograde period? And then in your body, taking everything day by day, especially once the retrograde is actually here, once a day, catching yourself, intentionally breathing a little slower, having a mindful moment to drop your shoulders, pay attention to your jaw. Is your jaw super tight? Fixing that. And then just having a moment each day as we take this retrograde day by day to let the nervous system settle before you choose to make any big decisions, especially if you have the time and the space to sit on a decision before you make it. Connecting with your body first before making those decisions. And then a couple of spiritual offerings for you. If you haven't already listened to the 2026 Vision Ritual episode, that is all about aligning with your future self. If you are thinking about, what do I want to accomplish this year? If you haven't already set some goals for yourself, that one is an excellent episode to go back and listen to. And it is very aligned and centered around the Western New Year and the Lunar New Year. And if you do want a deeper dive into the Lunar New Year and this past eclipse that we just had, that is the start of eclipse season. We will have another eclipse coming up as well. I do have a paid ritual that I posted on February 17th to my Substack. It is pay what you can. So on my Substack, I have a pay what you can tab. You contribute whatever you want. You take a screenshot and you send me a message and let me know you would like access to the Lunar New Year eclipse ritual, and I will send you access. Okay. I feel like I just yapped your ear off talking about all of these astrological transits and happenings and retrograde coming up. So before we close out, I would like to leave us with a small grounding and then sealing our ritual for today. So, wherever you are right now, whatever you are doing, if you are sitting on a subway, if you are doing your makeup, if you are making breakfast, cleaning your house, wherever you are, I just want you to pause for a quick second. Take notice of your jaw. And you don't need to change positions at all. You don't even need to sit differently. Just notice your breath. Take a slow inhale through the nose. I will do this with you. And then just let your exhale be slightly longer. And then again, inhaling through your nose. And then a nice, long, slow exhale. Notice how your shoulders maybe dropped a little. Notice your jaw. Create some space between your teeth. And just relax your tongue in your mouth if it is touching the roof of your mouth. And now I just want you to just simply notice your hands. And whether they're on the steering wheel, if you are holding your phone, they're resting on your lap. Just take a look at them. Notice them. The lines, the temperature, the subtle sensations of what they're holding, what they're touching, what they're resting on. And this is mindfulness. It's nothing dramatic. It's just your own awareness returning to you. Now notice your feet. Even if you're walking, even if you're driving, or even if you're standing. Just feel the connection to the ground beneath you. Be here in this moment with me. You are not in next week. You are not at your next decision. You are here. And with your feet planted firmly on the ground, being in this moment, it's almost like Mercury Retrograde, asking you to pause, to stand still, to notice all the happenings around you. And then just taking a moment to think about what you are being invited to reconsider. Not something that you have to fix, not something that you have to force, but just something that you are reconsidering. And let that question just linger for a little bit. There's no urgency to move on from it. Let's take one more slow inhale. And a nice, long, steady exhale. And before we part, I want you to choose just one word for how you want to move through this next season, through this retrograde. Maybe it is inviting clarity, patience, discernment, compassion, revision, perspective, whatever feels right to you. And if you have a beverage with you right now, a water bottle, a coffee, a tea, I invite you to pause before you take your next sip and speak your word into your drink intentionally. No one really even needs to hear you. You don't need to say it out loud. You can whisper it if you are somewhere public, or you can just mentally say it inside your head with the intention of you directing it into your beverage. And taking a pause. And whenever you're ready, taking your next sip. And let that be your reminder. Going forward, reviewing before we take action. We are considering perspective before we rush anything. And really remember, you do not need to rush anything. Take your time, especially now. And our ritual is now sealed. Next week's episode will be a grounding Mercury Retrograde guided meditation to check in with ourselves and how this energy is affecting us, to ground in our bodies a bit more, and hopefully just to move forward with a bit more intention. Thank you so much for joining me here today, for letting me do this ritual for you, for joining me in this ritual. Until the next one, I'm your host, Camilla Celeste, signing off.